Good. Hello, guys. Welcome back to this session. Today, we'll be doing the Constitution of India. We'll be just going through the index, and later on, we will be doing the case laws, major and the recent ones. Then, we will be doing a revision of MCQs plus the main answer writing. Okay, and we also be going through like certain parts. Deep in the parts will be try to cover all these things in our later sessions. So let's just cover this up. Constitution of India part 1, it has how many parts? You just comment down below. At the end we'll get to know. So we have preamble. Part 1 starts from the union. Whenever we are forming our country or territory, the first thing that is required is the union and its territory. Then the persons are the citizens there. Then we require citizenship. Then citizens ought to have some fundamental rights, ought to have some fundamental duties, and so forth. We will be going towards just like a very structured manner our constitution has been framed. So we'll just start with it. So part 1 is the union and its territory. Article 1 says name and territory of India, that is Bharat, that is Union of States. Then we have Article 2, admission or establishment of new state. 2A, Sikkim to be associated with the union, omitted. Formation of new states and alteration of areas. Here the questions would be very direct, and from the this portion would only be coming from the, if we do index 10 times, then also we'll be able to easily score good marks in our prelims. And for the mains, if we are doing index plus the case laws, that would itself be sufficient. Okay, and we also need to go into the bare provisions, so we'll be doing that. For just remember, 1 is the name and territory of union, second is the admission and establishment. We are just in second, we are admitting and we are establishing. But under 3, what we are doing, in 3 we are forming new state, or we are altercation any boundary, like Telangana was formed recently, alterations, boundaries, or we are changing names. So that all will be done under 3. 4 is important, laws made under Article 2 or 3 to provide for the amendment of first and fourth schedule. So if you are doing anything in 2 and 3, then in respect of that, you need to amend first and fourth schedule, and supplemental, incidental and constitutional matters. So whatever matters are there, you need to amend those as well if you are amending 2 and 3 article. Now part 2, citizenship, very important. Article 5 says citizenship at the commencement of the constitution. So whenever the word commencement comes, just remember the article number 5. Okay, then we have 6, right of citizenship of certain persons who have migrated to India from Pakistan. There is a date you should remember. Right of citizenship, certain migrants to Pakistan. Right of citizenship of Indian origin residing outside India. This again is important. OCI holders. Okay, so this is whenever there is overseas citizens word is there, you should always remember Article 8. Now persons voluntarily acquiring citizenship of foreign state not to be citizens. This is again important. Simple MCQ there was in the previous year paper, that persons voluntarily acquiring citizenship of foreign states are to be considered as citizens. No, they are not to be considered as citizens, because India follows single citizenship. And which article says so? Article 9 says so. Okay, so please remember this. And continence of rights of the citizenship, Parliament to regulate the right of citizenship by law, and therefore we have Citizenship Act. Okay, therefore we have Citizenship Act, under which article gives power to the Parliament. 11 gives power to the Parliament. Okay, moving forward, so there were only 5 to 11. So 1 to 4 was part 1, then 5 to 11 was part 2. You know part 3, the backbone, that is fundamental rights. 12 to 35 is part 3. Part 3, fundamental rights, it again is divided into several sub portions. First is 12, definition. The definition of state is given in here, and there is a plethora of cases in here that we need to be going through. 13 is what are laws. So laws inconsistent with So either they would be inconsistent or they would be derogating some fundamental rights that would not be considered as a valid law. 13 is the touchstone of any law to be a valid law. 12, these two both are important. Like part 3 fundamental rights in itself is important. With cases you can now frame your answers directly from the bare text and the cases. Okay, then very much important, we have right to equality. You must remember, like, just do this. Right to equality starts from 14 to 18, means 4 rights it is having. 1 2 3 4 5 rights, sorry. Right to equality, 5 total rights it is having from 14 to 18. 14 is equality before law and equal protection of laws. Okay, again very important. 14 prohibition. 14 and 16 are read together. 16 is for the public employment. So these are the words that you should be looking forward, and you should not like just go haywire. Equality before law, 14 should strike. 16 should strike for the public employment. Now prohibition of discrimination, whatever there is on the grounds of this is 15. Okay, prohibition of discrimination on grounds of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth. So these factors on which you are not allowed to discriminate, this is also asked in your MCQ, because they will give you like on what factors. So you should remember religion, race, caste and place of birth. These things you should be remembering, that on what grounds. Now there is a residence here a matter? Place of birth it is. So yeah, it is actually there. Can women be allowed to have a reservation? Yes, we have a clause in here. So all these things you should be having on your tips: religion, race, caste, place of birth. 15, prohibition of discrimination. 16 is specifically for the public employment. So there would be no discrimination in the public employment. There would be equality of opportunity. Now again, next is 17, abolition of untouchability. For this we have a special act, protection of civil rights. It is not a abolition of untouchability act. We do not have anything act like this, but we have a act of civil rights, protection of civil rights act. This is again important, abolition of untouchability. Then 18, you know, that is abolition of titles. Is it clear? Easy peasy. Next we are going to the right to freedom. Now again, right to freedom is having 19 to 22. 1 2 3 4 5, again 5, but 19 itself has 6 clauses. 19 itself has 6 clauses. We'll be studying when we'll go into the detail. So right to freedom, 19 is protection of certain rights, because certain rights, S, that means there are more than one, 3 in total or 6 in total. Freedom of speech, etc. 20 is respect of conviction for offenders. Again very very important. 20 is talking about conviction for offences, protection and respect for conviction of offences. 21, again very important. 21 is protection of life and personal liberty, and a plethora of cases and number of rights are actually inhering from this article 21. Then article 21A, right to education by 86th amendment. Very important. From 6 to 14 years you are like a right to education as a fundamental right. 86th amendment, 21A. Okay. Then we have 22, protection against arrest and detention in certain cases, and the whole law of preventive detention is actually legalized in this article, article 22. This is very important. 19 to 22. 19 is having 6 clauses, from freedom of speech, etc., trade, residence. Then we have conviction for offences, protection and respect of conviction offences. We have 3 things in here. 20. Then 21 is life and personal liberty. 21 is education. 22 is against arrest and detention in certain cases. We have preventive detention here. Now again, moving to right to against exploitation, only 2 sections are there. 23 and 24. 23, prohibition of trafficking. So whenever there is a traffic in human beings and forced labors, we have a separate law, and that law, that statute, is actually been encouraged by international covenants. And also article 23. Article 23 prohibits the trafficking in human beings and forced labor. 2 things are there. Okay, And 24 is prohibition of employment of children in factories. And you can say read with IPC section. You will comment down below which section is there which makes it a punishment. And this is actually the thing that has gone to the court, and it is a very common issue. So we have prohibition of employment of children in factories, etc. 23 and 24, rights against exploitation. Now again very important, we have right of freedom of religion. I think 4 section only. Yeah, 4 section. Right to freedom of religion have 4 batch of 4 articles. Now 25 is freedom of conscience, free profession, practice, propagation of religion. The freedom of conscience or conscience, you can say any, both are correct. The freedom of conscience, free profession, practice and propagation of religion. See, the point is what MCQ would be, which is not a fundamental right. Freedom to practice, yes. Freedom to profess, yes. Freedom of conscience, yes. Freedom propagation of religion, yes. Not conversion. This would be your answer. This would be an option, but your answer would be conversion is not a fundamental right. That is a 25. 26 says about to manage religious affairs. So related to trust, or you have any certain code that you want to protect, 26 is the article which gives you protection to manage religious affairs. Now freedom as to the payment of taxes for promotion of any particular religion. Now you have a freedom to payment of taxes for promotion of any particular religion. Then you can also do that under 27. 28 is freedom as to the attendance at religious instruction or religious worship in certain educational institution. Again very important. If there is a school and there is a distinction between whether it is like government run, then it is not allowed, but if it is run by the religious institution, then it is allowed. So freedom as to the attendance at religious instruction or religious worship at certain educational, that is article 28. Moving to next article batch, that is cultural and educational rights. Only 3 sections, batch of 3 sections are there. 29 tells you about protection of interest of minorities. Here there are 2 minorities, linguistic and religion minority. You can check, okay, whether it is religious or linguistic. Linguistic is there. Religious minorities, 29 talks about it. Cultural and educational rights, minorities. 30 rights of minorities to establish and administer educational institution. Again very important. So if you have actually applied for the institution under article 30, then your article 28 will also kick in. Okay, educational institution. So right of minorities to establish and administer educational institution, that is under article 30. Then we have 31, compulsory acquisition of property. It has been omitted. It has become 300A, that is a constitutional right. So batch of only 2 sections is there, not the 3. Now we have saving of certain laws. Saving of laws providing for acquisition of estates, validation of certain acts and regulations. Saving laws given to certain directive principle, 31C. Okay, and this is omitted. You can actually 31A is to be read. This was all added by the 9th amendment. No, which amendment? It was added from the first amendment. I think it was added from the first amendment, but you can check. So 31A to 31C, first amendment after Kameshwar Prasad Singh case, but you need to check it once. Okay. Saving of laws providing for acquisition of state, which makes that Land Acquisition Act we have on 2013. Validation of certain acts and regulations, and saving of laws to give effect to certain directive principles. So this you should be actually do a little bit of reading behind it. Then last set of fundamental rights we are having of right to constitutional remedies. We have 32, the Supremo, remedies for enforcement of rights conferred by this part. So only this part, only part 3 are going to be addressed by 32. This is omitted. Then we have power of parliament to modify the rights conferred by this part in the application to forces. So army, if you have certain, if power of parliament, they can modify the rights under part 3 if applicable to forces, armed forces, etc. Restriction on rights conferred by this part while martial law is forced in any area. that is also provided by the 34, that if martial law is imposed in your area, then the rights under part 3 would be restricted in some sense. And 35 is legislation to give effect to the provisions of this effect. So if there is any legislation which is giving effect to the provisions, then that is admissible, or that has the enforceability under article 35. I hope that the index till part 3 is somewhat clear, and you are getting an idea of how to read every word and every provision from the bare text of the constitution. In the next sessions we will be doing more parts in detail, and let's see you in the next class. Thank you.